Everyone, welcome back to the Made for More Consulting Podcast, episode 93. We have had an interesting takeoff to this podcast. We've tried to record multiple times. Something's going on. So, welcome back, Adina.
Good to be here.
Tiana,
Hello.
Amy, welcome back for the fourth time. If this is your first time listening, I hope it sounds correctly. But this is a podcast where we just want to help develop leadership skills and personal development skills so that we can lead those around us better and help build them up so that in turn they can build better leaders around them. What we don't have, we can't pass on, so we want to make sure that we're growing. It is, I don't think we need to get into
we go.
anything else except let's just try to get this done.
Let's do this.
We appreciate you guys listening, and I'm trying to watch the recording as we go. So here we go. We are on episode 93. This book has been an interesting challenge for some of us just because the way it's just written. But in this section, just remember we don't read the entire book. And in this section, it's called The Call to Courage. She's talking about vulnerability in this part of the book. And throughout this entire chapter, she's going to be talking about a scenario in her office. And through that scenario, she has multiple like lessons that take place in her office. And so we're going to go through some of those lessons and we're going to talk about some of those. Aren't we?
We are. We're going to talk about a lot of them.
I wasn't sure what you had said last time that we tried to record this. So that's why I was like, well.
Well, I don't even know if I'm on the right section here in my book.
No, you're good.
Section
you're good.
2.
Yeah, section 2, The Call to
I got
Courage.
this.
We're gonna try to restart. Okay, really? My wife is telling me to smile. So
Yeah, you're talking
you're
like
gonna
what-
be
what are
silent.
you
smiling? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Why are we
Welcome
smiling?
from work for their podcast. We're just angry on leaders, so I'm angry.
Episode.
You know what? It all
70
happens
times.
for a reason.
There you
Okay.
go.
It does. It all happens for a reason.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because
That's
I failed to freaking check this stuff before, but
See, we learned something.
yeah, keep this door locked. Anyways, yeah. So she starts off the chapter, and I was gonna ask you, Dina, how do you respond to someone that texts you or calls you and says, "Do you have an hour to meet?"
Okay, well, on here you put to rumble. I
Yeah,
immediately thought like West Side Story. You know?
And I'm not a fan of the word rumble, like I
know.
said.
Yeah.
But someone texted her or commented to her or called her. I can't remember how they did it, but they said, "Hey, our team needs to meet with you for an hour to rumble." So how would you respond to something like that?
Well, it was the whole team. But first of all, it always depends on who it is. You know, because there's different people. If they say, "Hey, can we talk this morning? Can we meet for whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Some people, you're like, "Oh, here we go." That's like the thought that goes through my mind. But I mean, I am not somebody who like is afraid or even dislikes like I don't even say confrontation, but like clarity or discussion.
Yeah.
Or I'm not afraid of people's feelings. So I most of the time I get energy from it. I enjoy those kind of meetings,
Yeah.
because why do you?
No, because we're totally different. You know how I feel when someone says, "Hey."
Oh,
yeah,
you
time to
immediately
talk."
you're like, no, tell me what it's about.
Yeah,
like,
like,
don't
give me a
no,
heads up.
like yeah.
Like, give me a heads up of what this is, because I got to prepare my mind when I walk in here. I'm not gonna be blindsided. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
anyways, I was just curious about how you feel.
I also feel like a lot of times as a leader, you usually know, you have a feeling about what somebody wants to talk about because you know who they are, kind of what they're going through, maybe what they're working on,
That's interesting. No, cool. So let's talk about, she goes through this and she talks about unrealistic timelines as a leader. This is probably one of the most frustrating areas for our teams if we have, she's talking about that they approach her and they start discussing, hey, you have unrealistic timelines. So as a leader, if you have unrealistic timelines, you're probably driving your team nuts. So how can we be aware as leaders about unrealistic timelines?
Well, first I thought it was very telling that in that conversation that they started with, hey, we feel like you have unrealistic timelines. You're too optimistic. They went through this whole thing.
Sheesh.
Because
Yeah.
what I think it's easy to turn it around and make it like about her. Like, you don't know me, I work so hard. Like, I mean, like about like, she's not a good leader. I mean, like,
Yeah.
But they didn't make it anything about her or
Yeah.
about them. They made it like a fact. I'm not a fact, but they made it like a problem, like
Yeah.
something we're going to talk
Yep.
about, we're going to
Yep.
solve. It wasn't personal on either side.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that happens. I think so often we make it personal. Doesn't she know I have a life outside of this
Yeah.
place?
Yeah.
You know, all of this stuff. But no, it was very much like as an employee, I thought about it. I think what it comes down to is she has unrealistic timelines.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So let's go discuss timelines.
Mm.
And I think they called her in. They talked about it.
And then, but what she did was it took her back to a time that she
But-
was talking to her husband about,
Yeah,
Getting
getting
ready
ready for something. Yeah.
but she didn't get ready till the last minute.
Mhm.
And so I'm just saying, as a leader, you got to be careful about timelines because that frustrates your team, especially when they're not the same mindset as you. They don't read your mind.
Well, and I thought it was I think it was in another one of her books, but she talked about this same meeting
Mhm.
and where how anytime they do a project, they put it all in Post-it notes.
Oh yeah, that's coming up soon.
Okay, well,
We're
good.
gonna discuss that
Okay, good.
because she calls it turn and learn, and I
Well, but
hate her
they did it
freaking-
specifically for timelines.
Yeah,
Is that this chapter?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I
that's
don't
what
wanna-
happens
I
when you
don't
read your
wanna-
book
I don't want to.
weeks ahead.
Yeah, she has all these different
Now connected to laptop through HBK
That was
787.
Jamie.
she has all these different like words for
Mhm.
little things, and that's what I'm saying.
Well,
But-
that's their culture.
Yeah, exactly. That's the culture she kind of leads in her workplace.
Yeah.
I just think timelines in itself, as a leader, even if we were just talking about timelines in general, as a leader, be careful.
But timelines are so weird because if you set the timeline too far
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
then it's demotivating and it gives people like too much time in between. You really have to have that is a skill to set a realistic timeline.
Yeah.
And how do
But
you
if you
feel
can't
about?
keep it in, she kept it in her head.
But
and
how
did
do you
not
feel about
communicate it.
leaders? So this is weird, you know, like saying, "Hey, when do you think you can have this done?" And
Mhm.
let's say you're like, "Oh, I think December 1st," you know.
Yeah.
No, because it's September.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
about you get it done? I mean, like, it's a weird, like, okay, why do you
There
think
has
you
to
need
be a
that long?
realistic.
There
yes.
yes.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I just think that being on certain sides, or here's the other thing, on timelines,
Okay,
when you're sitting in
hold
a
on.
group.
I just thought of something. When I say, okay, Etiana, I'm gonna totally call you out right here.
Yeah.
Because when I said that, Etiana made a face. When I said, hey, like, when do you think you can get this done? I just realized the face that she made me feel like when I get asked that you don't trust me, that I'm gonna get it done, like, that I'm gonna get it done on my own time. Like,
Yeah.
you're trying. But is that because I don't like people to tell me what to do?
Well, the other thing is, for me, like the reason I make that face is because I've been asked that question so many times, and really what they're trying to say is, I want you to do it at this time. So instead of saying, when do you think you can get this done? I'd rather you just say, hey, can you get this done at this time?
Yes.
That's what that face was.
Yeah, so it's
But
just
that
such a weird thing.
Yeah, but that goes into the next thing we're about to talk about. It said, do you agree with this or disagree? Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. But she's talking about within this meeting, if you can't be clear about the timeline, I wouldn't say, hey, can you get this done? Hey, this is a very important project. December 1st is the deadline. So this part of this project needs to be done September 30th. Is that feasible?
Well, right. Well, we learned in that in Trust and Inspire, he did the stewardship agreements.
Mhm.
How it was. Here's the final. Like it's
Yeah.
due December. It's December 1st, but we're gonna have
Here's the check-ins.
the check-ins.
Or
You
whatever
know,
we
if you're
call
out
it,
there for big projects.
Yeah, and I think it's just that I just don't want people to see that you can just come in. I mean, you can if you want, but a trust and inspire leader, if you just come in as a command and control and just say, hey, I need this done, when do you think you can have it done? Or however, again, unrealistic expectations and timelines can ruin a team of cohesiveness. You know what I'm saying? And then that goes into, so do you agree with clear is kind and unclear is unkind?
Yes, I do. I really do.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Mhm.
You know, because yes, not even for timelines, but all over. I'm like,
Yeah.
for me as a person, I would much rather have a direct conversation with somebody
Mhm.
than somebody beat all around the bush about something and you walk away and you're like, am
Yeah.
I in trouble or did I do a good job? Like, I don't really know what's going on here, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that's, again, she's talking about courage. So you have to be clear with what you're coming across with. And I mean, I agree with it. I think there's, again, again, I base a lot of the things that I learned off of what Extreme Ownership and Jocko's. But when he's trying to help people come on board with the plan and create their own way, their own autonomy, he's not clear because he wants them to come up with it. He knows where he wants to go, but he says, I'm not going to do the direct approach. I'm the indirect so that you can come up with something. But she's talking
But he's
more about.
putting the expectation out there. That's he's not like, just kind of be who you
No,
want
exactly,
to
exactly. Yes, yeah. There's certain expectations you got to reach to be on his team,
be.
and again, it's not unrealistic. It's realistic. So yeah. Okay, so I got frustrated with her on the second, on her second reason. Did you see page 50? What did I say?
Page 51.
Son of a biscuit. Reading this got me so upset. Let me just read it. It says, in addition to daily work we do together, I'm often holding vision of longer term university commitments, publishing contracts, and a dozen potential collaboration conversations in my head. Okay, you're a big deal. Sometimes I'm pushing my timelines because I'm trying to sync up the timing on projects and deadlines that my team doesn't even know about because I've failed to share. If you're the leader,
Well, but I think that's what she's saying. I
things.
think that's what she's saying. That's what I got out of that. Is she's saying she's acknowledging that she's got a lot more going on in her head, and
Yes.
she's not sharing everything with her
Yes.
team, which is why she has
Created again.
Yes.
she's created a gap. And she's
again,
unrealistic
the reason I
timelines.
got frustrated is because if you've been on the side of we're working on this project, and then something comes back and overlays on top of that project, and you're going, hey, how long did you know about this? Because we're trying to get this done, and then you're dropping this on, and one of our clients calls it seagull. Don't be a freaking seagull. Don't come in here and crap on us, and then fly away, and then come back and crap on us again, and then go check on what we did with the crap that you crapped on. And he just says it that way because he wants you to know we're a team. You're not coming in here and just crapping on us and leaving. You're coming in and being a part of this. So whatever you bring to the table, bring it all and be clear, be direct, but don't leave and then come back and go, oh, I forgot to tell you guys this. Oh, I forget. And again, we're going to get to why all these things matter. What?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's
Oh,
what
yeah,
happens
yeah.
in the seagull moments.
Yeah. So when the leader fails to share, I think you set your team up for failure later. So I think I'm just very, when you get negative about something, it's just hard to finish something as far as, So listen to this quote. I think this is probably one of the best quotes I've heard in this book. It says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And she's talking about fear. So the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, meaning that if you're trying to get to a goal, if you're trying to work up the courage to start something, in that cave that holds the key to everything. Why are you guys laughing?
I don't know.
Keep going.
I'm so glad that you identified with that quote.
Why?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
I feel like every person should be able to connect with that.
I don't at all.
Oh my gosh. So if you ever want to try to go somewhere with a team or as a leader, if you're not moving, well, you got to go in there.
You've got to go into the cave. Absolutely.
Okay.
Conquer your fear.
Yeah. So what about permission slips, Adina? I think this is the most ridiculous idea
I
she's
thought
ever
it was
had.
a little bit.
This is probably the most negative podcast we've ever had.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of cheesy. Might be the right
I
word.
know what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well.
Yes. Because permission slips to go, I think this is over the top personally, but if you guys want to try this, go for it. I just think it's over. If we have trust and inspire in our group right here, this team, I don't need to give you a permission slip to cry. I don't need to give you a permission slip to say,
Well,
I'm giving permission to stand up. Here's my permission slip. I'm giving myself permission to stand up and walk around the room when I need to cool off.
I feel like this is what I thought was interesting is I feel like when you're on a team, you have like an unwritten permission slip to do all of those things.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
like,
There
if
is
I
a
need to get up and go
disconnect.
to the bathroom, I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom. I don't need to give myself permission.
That's where I
whatever.
disagree with this. Is to
Yeah,
go,
I thought that
there's-
was kind of odd.
then that means there's a level of vulnerability that's not there.
But
if
what I
you have
did
to
like
request
is
permission.
that she compared it to like when I write a permission slip for my kid, they still have to get in the car.
Yeah.
Because I think often as a leader, I feel like I give people permission to tell me if something's not going right. I give them permission to, whatever, share how it's going, how they're feeling, be real. But just because I give somebody permission doesn't mean they're going to get in the car.
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're actually going to do it, and that is not on me. That is on them.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that at the very end.
Yeah.
But man, it's tough to that. I just wouldn't want my team to feel like they need permission to.
At the beginning of every meeting, you have to write something down.
Yeah,
what
like
you're
I
giving
need
yourself
permission
permission
to stand up and go use the restroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walk
Well, why
around
don't you
and
get
do-
the freaking hall pass and use that too? Anyways, I did like the idea of meeting minutes. I know that. So I'm on the board of a nonprofit, and and he's listening to this now, the owner. But when someone says minutes, I'm like, what the freak are minutes? I don't care. Like, do I need to take minute by minute? It's just a meeting. They're just
Again,
notes.
Tiana's face is
I know.
like, what do you mean you don't know about minutes?
Yeah, they're just meeting notes.
It's my whole job here.
So, like when I looked up notes, I'm like, okay, so notes are called minutes, oh, whatever. But anyways, what she did definitely that I liked about this was I thought it was a good time to discuss. Okay, if you have a meeting with your staff, and personally, this is the way I feel. I don't know how you feel. If you're getting your entire staff, 4 people, 10 people, 12 people, 30 people, and there's no agenda, it's probably not going to go well.
Yes.
And so if you are someone that's listening, go, I can never have a good staff meeting. We want to ask, is there an agenda? Is there a deadline as to this is when this meeting is going to end? And then here's what we're going to cover. And then, because if you don't, then what's going to happen is people are going to come in blind and they're going to go, I had no idea we we're going to talk about this. And you know how those meetings go. So what she did is she said, there's a date, there's meeting intentions, there's attendees, key decisions. And the one that I love is tasks and ownerships. Never leave a meeting going, hey, who's taking this?
Well, I
we
also
never
think
discuss
about
that.
agendas is that it also kind of does what you said earlier, is it helps people prepare for
Mm-hmm.
what they're going to talk about. Even if it's task and facts, if I know we're going to talk about something, a project that maybe I'm a part of or should be a part of,
Mhm.
then I can get in the right space to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think this week maybe on social media we'll share like top 5 things to get ready, or how to hold a staff meeting, because we just said set deadlines, get ownership of tasks, because I know that we've all been in meetings that, hey, who's going to do that? We never said that because everybody was already tired of how long the meeting was going. So again, set a deadline of here's when we're starting, here's when we're ending, here's what we want to get done. But before you leave, here's who's taking ownership.
Well, and
of
it
this
works
task.
best even in the moment where if you can really say, okay,
Yep.
who's going to own this?
Yeah.
We just decided we needed to do this. Who is owning this?
Gain clarity of the entire team so that there's no lack of vision that can harm the team. Like leave there going, this is what we accomplished during this meeting. I think, again, if the worst part is to get in a meeting and go, we could have covered this through a freaking email or a text. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because then you're losing pocket change with your team. So I did agree with her as far as have some
Yes,
meeting
yes,
minutes or freaking notes is what it is.
for sure.
So
Yes, yes,
Jay, I'm
yes,
sorry.
yes.
So you talked about earlier,
Oh, see, here it is.
turn and learn.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of the little
yeah.
notes, or the little words, but turn and learn, page 55. You want to talk?
What she did in that one was whenever they discussing a project, everybody puts in on a post-it note when they think that they can complete it.
Yeah, or their idea.
Yeah, or their idea, whatever it is, whatever it is that you're deciding, whatever you're learning when you turn or whatever
Yeah.
it is, and then you take them up and then you read them and then you make a decision as a group.
Yeah, because you're learning
It's
what Adina
right. It's
wrote down,
supposed to
I wrote
be.
down.
It's supposed to be kind of more of an anonymous, and then she talks about how it that way you don't have the halo effect or the what was the other word?
Yeah, the halo effect.
Bandwagon
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah,
you know?
because like if we wrote down our ideas for something and everybody goes, okay, ready, here they are, turn over your post-it notes or just put them in this hat, we're going to read them all. You get everyone's ideas, but it is anonymous so that you're not hurting someone's feelings.
Well, or I
But-
think what she said is that a lot of times people, whoever has the most influence,
Mhm.
like if somebody, like if you said, oh, I think we can have this done in 2 weeks, but then there's a brand new person on the team and they feel like it's going to take them 6 months, they don't want to speak up and be like, 6 months, what was I
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah,
You know, but if it's all anonymous,
Yep.
you know,
You're right, and it's just like Jim and Dwight. Dwight would have a idea and give it to Michael Scott, but then Jim would say the exact same idea, and because he's Jim, Michael Scott would go, "That's a great idea,"
a great
and then
idea.
Dwight would get pissed and go, I just said that. And then so Dwight would say another one, and Michael goes, because he'd look at Jim's face, and then he'd look at Jim and Jim, and Jim would say the same idea, and he goes, I like that idea. And so, anyways, you're right. It's a way to put all the ideas. I did like that. So you can call it the post-it note idea, not the turn and learn. It's just too much like turn and burn. That's what it made me think of. Anyways, such a negative podcast today. She does. This is another part that I think as leaders we got to keep in mind. She has a small part in here about the way to apologize. As a leader, apologizing can create trust, or it can create a bigger gap. And I think that one of the reasons I wanted to discuss this is because some of us, if not at some point in our lives, have been in a place where someone apologizes and they don't stop. They apologize for what they did or what they said, and then they go, but, and it's either flipped on you or they say, however. They try to make an excuse for why they did what they did, right? And so one of the things she just says is just apologize. Let there be some emptiness, some silence, so that people can process it. Allow for an individual or staff to process the apology. But I think for some of us, it's difficult to take ownership and just apologize and say, hey, I screwed up. You know what I'm saying? What are you thinking?
Well, because in here you said, it says there has to be a behavioral change.
There you
if
go.
not, the apology will be empty. I think that's one of the hardest things as someone on like a receiving end of a leader apologizing, is when you don't really feel like anything's going to change. It's going to be the same. This isn't the first time we've heard this.
Yep.
You know, or also you can read through it whenever they're saying, well, I'm just going to take responsibility because I'm the leader and I should take responsibility. If there's an emptiness to that, you're losing pocket change.
Yep.
You know, and so what's weird is I would almost rather you not apologize if it's not an authentic apology. You know, I think I would rather you have a discussion about why you did what you did, why you believe that way, even if it's because I was fearful of something,
Yeah.
you know, instead of just trying to make this blanket apology, you know, in following a 3-step process because that's what you think you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
team can feel that.
Yeah, and I think the vital thing that you just said was if it's happened multiple times and they keep getting the same apology, at some point they're going to leave or they're just going to go. There's already a gap as a staff, and we already know how it's going to go. So she does in this section with having a difficult meeting with a team, and there's all these emotions running high. She gives some great examples of how to prepare for a meeting like this. I do want to say, I want to read that part where she says this about her team. She says they're allowed to be pissed or sad or surprised or elated. But if their behaviors are not okay, we set boundaries. And I do like this part. I will say this. She says, I know, like, so if you're stepping into a tough meeting, I know this is going to be a tough conversation. Being angry is okay. Yelling is not okay. So you're telling people that behavior of yelling is not okay. I know we're tired and stressed. This has been a long meeting. Being frustrated is okay. Interrupting people and rolling your eyes is not okay. That's, again, another great, you're putting the expectation on behavior. You can definitely be frustrated, but don't be a butthole. I appreciate the passion around these different opinions and ideas. The emotion is okay. Passive aggressive comments and put downs are not okay. And again, if you've ever been in one of those meetings, it can get even more tense and you lose the credibility of everybody in that meeting the minute that behavior goes south. And as a leader, you have to set the tone for these meetings by maybe saying some things like that. I think those are really good, especially when you know it's going to be either letting someone go or coming up with ideas and putting some ideas aside that maybe were really good and someone was attached to.
Well,
Yeah.
I also think just in having, if you're in a meeting or something happens and one of these behaviors does happen, this is a really good way to talk about it as a leader.
Yeah.
You know, to say it's okay to have emotion, but what's not okay is for you to.
Yeah, throw stuff or yell stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, just really, just to let that come out in a negative way.
Yeah.
Have emotion, but don't be passive aggressive.
And if that ever happens, I think there's been a couple meetings I've been a part of where we had to let people go, multiple people go. And the leader never got emotional to match that person's emotion because they got pissed, they started yelling, and that leader kept his cool. And being in that meeting, I was just a bystander going, okay, he kept his cool. And for me, I'm going, what she said is not allowed. That was demoralizing. All the things she said was horrible, but she was angry. And if if you would have come out and said, hey, I know you're gonna be upset, so some of the things, yelling's not okay, saying those things are not okay, I know you're gonna feel a certain way, that would have helped. But what it did help by him keeping his cool is she left, got a drink of water, came back, and she goes, hey, I'm sorry. And they ended up mending the relationship, but she needed some time. But either way, those meetings can go really, really difficult, or really, really bad and difficult if you don't have some expectations. So in the end, this is just about being vulnerable as a team. I think that if you can have these meetings, have these conversations, issue apologies, take ownership of the things that you need to take ownership. I just think that thinking of other people before you go into a meeting, thinking of other people as you have different conversations, it'll take the brunt off of it. But you as a leader, you also have to be direct. So, but as we wrap up this, I wanted to talk about something that comes with this book, and I think it comes with Trust and Inspire too, is the discussion about vulnerability. It's a trust and inspire versus old school leadership is what I've heard this week. Okay, so there's some questions around what we've been covering the last couple of podcasts and the previous book. So how do you draw the line as a leader that you don't get emotionally drawn in with your staff, but you're still knowing what's going on in their lives? That was a question I had this week, because they're going, hold on, you're telling me to know my people, but I can't emotionally get involved. I'm like, no, you can't get emotionally involved. You're not supposed to. You can let them get emotional. You can be that boss and manager or that leader, but you can't take full responsibility of their emotions, like she says. But as a leader, I think the old school type of mentality was, don't bring your crap in here, get your stuff done. And what we learn in Trust and Inspire here is be vulnerable. But as a leader, we got to be careful how much we allow into our lives. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because her definition of vulnerable is, not knowing what the outcome's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a different question if you are investing emotionally in someone.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know how to describe that line, but
But you know it.
But you know it for sure. And I think that there are a lot of people that do it really, really well.
Yeah. I think the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because there's so many people on both sides going, I never was a part of a staff where it was freaking trust and inspire, come in and tell me how you feel, but they want to be. But then on the other side, there's these people that go, we still got to get things done. So how do I invest in my team while getting things done, but listening to them and knowing them? I think you know the line. You can't obviously spend all time talking to your team all the time. You got to have expectations, but you also can't emotionally control.
But I think
the
a
other
lot
individual.
of that too, in like connecting with yourself as a leader, is being just consistent in how you respond and how you react to things, because that brings a lot of trust to the people around you. If they feel like they can walk into your office and share something with you, even if it's with like, hey, the last 3 things that you have tried to set a deadline for, we've missed them. I think you might have some unrealistic expectations. Is there a way that we can be a part of deciding the date?
Yeah.
And if you can respond with that, with like, okay, like I hear you, let me think about that and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Versus like you're fired because you don't trust them. It's a different old school trust and inspire. It's kind of 2 different ways of leading. So I think that is a big part of it, is your people have to know how you're going to respond. They can't be afraid of that. They can't be unsure of how you're going to respond.
Yeah, appreciate it. I just choking over here.
It's okay.
But I just want people to feel encouraged that the new way of leading teams is changing, because if you're trying to control and command, I think that's going to be, and these next couple books were written before Trust and Inspire. The next couple books that we're going to discuss, and at some point we'll tell you what they were. We tried to tell you, but the freaking podcast.
We told you the first time we started this.
It's True North and Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. I think those are the 2 books, but they were written before Trust and Inspire. But what they talked about as in their profession, a former CIA, FBI negotiator, and then what did you call it? The school, Yale, Harvard, and Stanford.
Ivy League.
Ivy League professor. They both talk about the fact that there's a time coming when that old school way of leading is not going to work because the newer generations don't want to be behind someone who just command and controls. And at some point, if you can't make that switch, or have people on that staff that can run that kind of leadership for you, which is understanding your staff, knowing what kind of dynamics they have. If you're the leader and the owner and you don't have that, don't want that, you're just going to have people clocking in and clocking out. And then when they get a better rate somewhere else, they're just going to leave. And you're not going to know. So, yeah.
Next question. How do you care without trying to fix things?
How do you care without trying to fix things?
Yeah.
I think you listen. I mean, that's one of the things that I think I gathered from this that we didn't talk about is just listen. Like, don't open your mouth. She said it earlier, don't nod like you're trying to speed them up. I mean, well, you know.
Not in agreement.
Yeah, like you're ready to say something. Like you're going, I can't wait till you finish because I'm going to say this. Like you just go, okay, just listen. Just listen.
And one of the things I like that she did, we didn't bring this up, but whenever somebody came to her, she said, can I take a day to think about this?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think we had this discussion about how, like, if somebody wants to have a conversation with you, like, if you could, like, give me some time to process it.
Yeah,
If it's
we
a
talked
hard
about that
com-
last week
Yeah.
because I said I wasn't sure
Yeah,
how I felt
But
about that.
in that, like, because she took that time, she was able to go home, think about a conversation with her husband.
Yeah.
She tried, well, first, she started, like, I'm going to research some ways to have better time management.
She's
But,
trying to
and then
fix
she was like,
herself,
okay, where did all this come from? But I think the conversation was much more productive because she was able to say, let me have a day to think about this. And her team didn't feel like she was putting them off.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's
There's a
probably part of their
relationship there,
culture
yeah.
is that, okay, I can take some time to process this.
Yeah, and then one thing I did like that she said was, if you can't fix things, so how do you care without trying to fix things? If you can't fix things, don't be afraid. And that was the example, that whole story she shared about the Air Force lady. She talked about loneliness, and she's like, I don't know how to fix loneliness, but I'm just asking, do you feel lonely? And people started to say yes. Don't be afraid to go, I'm not a counselor, but we can go find someone that can help you. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of going, let me listen to you. I don't know how to handle this, but I want to help.
Mm-hmm.
And as an owner, a leader, a boss, if you have resources to reach out and you have the resources to pay for the counseling, I think that's a good way. Or maybe letting them pay for it in their insurance, but you can help connect the dots and go, you're not just a number here, an employee. Let me reach out and try to find this. Let me help you get your car fixed. Let me find a mechanic. Let me find hey, the AC went out of our house. Let me find you know what I'm saying? Those are small little problems. But if someone comes to you and goes, I'm having some mental health issues. Well, as an owner, you can take ownership.
Yeah.
Like, here's resources I have.
And I don't even know if it's like fixing it. I think like in that what she's saying is like, let me be in this with you. You know,
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
help you find somebody fix your car. I'll help you find somebody to go to counseling. I'll help you. You know, and I think with that also it's like you said, listening, asking, hey, following up, how's that going? Did you get somebody to fix your car? And I think oftentimes people don't want you or need you to fix something for them. They just want you to be in it.
Yeah.
And so many times I think our nature is to try and fix it, try to make it better, try to find a solution.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's always what people need.
Yeah, you're right. And I think one of the things that happened this week was someone had an issue that they were saying, hey, I prayed about this. I need some insight. And as they were telling me, they go, you know what? I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't need your input. I think I just answered it because I've talked it out. Cool.
Great.
And and as a leader,
yeah.
don't share your advice. Don't say yes or no. Just say, hey, I'm glad I could help. Because what that does is it gives them more pocket change to go, when they need something, they're going to come back and they're going to have that conversation with you because they built trust.
Yeah.
So, the next podcast, episode 94, we're going to try to finish this section. There's this part. I think
Try
it's
as a
part
weak
one.
word. We
Okay.
are going to finish this section.
We're going to finish this section, and it's this part, because it has 3 sections in it. Golly, this book is so long, but we're going to finish this. It's all about vulnerability, and we'll make sure we wrap that up. But the action step for this week that Adina didn't connect with, but we're going to ask that you connect with, is what cave do you need to walk into this week? What fear is that's lurking in that cave that you need to go after the treasure and go past that fear? So
what fear do you need to face?
but it's a cave. She talked about the cave, so I'm trying to go back to the book.
I'm just trying to relate it back.
She talks about Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars fan.
Me neither. And they cut off the head,
Yes.
and then it was his head laying there. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. So, guys, don't get pissed off at us because we aren't Star Wars fans. But if you are, maybe you can explain that to us.
Please.
Not in an angry email or message, but as we
Essiana at mingformore.com.
and Jamie,
I know Star Wars, guys. Suck it.
But anyways, we want to just wrap this up really quick. I want to wrap it up by saying, you know, Jay released the Epic Warrior podcast, and the reason I'm tied to that is again because it's for first responders, man. And I read an article this week that, you know, there's an ambush of 3 police officers in Rhode Island, I think, got called. It was a fake call. And the fact that they put their lives on the line. And Epic Warrior podcast is here to tell the stories of first responders that put their life on the line. And you may not be a fan of police officers or any of those people, but I'm just telling you, open your mind up to at least hear from them. And again, not all cops are good, not all pastors are good, not all business owners are good. There are some people that are horrible. But what we're trying to do at Epic Warrior, that Jay's trying to do, is at least tell the stories of those people that lay their life on the line. And if you have a first responder in your life, tell them to listen to it. Jay's open to interviewing them. Jay's open to helping them. So yeah, did you listen to it yet?
I listened to the very first episode.
Yeah, there's only one.
I thought they released another one. It was an
Another one,
interview.
it comes out this week.
Okay.
So it's every other week.
Okay.
There were 2 reviews on this podcast, and it was me and Jay. And someone reached out to us and said, "Bro, you guys can't be the only ones." So I was like, I don't know those 2 guys, but apparently they're pretty good. So, anyways, thank you guys for listening. One-on-one coaching is out there. It's on our website. You can sign up for it, even though we started our first semester, whatever you want to call it, our first section of training. You can go on there and sign up for more. But it's going well. And yeah, you got anything?
No. Close on my computer.
There you go. If again, I'm just gonna say this: if this does not sound correctly, it is because we had some technical difficulties. Thank you for having grace and patience with us. If you don't get to this
Just
point,
adjust it. Like if you're in your car, just adjust it yourself. You can change the treble and the bass and you can do all that
Yeah.
now.
I just got to figure out what's the issue with this thing. So thank you guys for listening. And remember, like we say every week, and we believe is we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.